The fluorescent lights of the airport terminal buzzed like a swarm of angry bees, casting a sterile glow over the chaos of travelers dragging suitcases and shouting into phones. I stood frozen, my duffel bag slung over my shoulder, watching Sarah's back as she hurried toward the exit, her heels clicking against the polished floor. "I'm sorry, Mark," she'd said, her voice clipped, eyes barely meeting mine. "I'm just swamped with work. I'll call you later." "Okay." And then she was gone, her silhouette swallowed by the sliding glass doors. I'd just flown 3,000 miles to surprise her after 2 months apart, and she'd left me standing there like a stranger. My chest tightened, not with anger yet, but with a hollow ache that whispered something was wrong. Very wrong. I'd planned this trip for weeks, imagining her face lighting up when I showed up unannounced at JFK. Sarah had been in New York for a temporary work assignment, a vague project for her marketing firm that kept getting extended. "It's just a few more weeks," she'd say over our spotty video calls, her smile tight, her eyes darting away. I chalked it up to stress. She was ambitious, always had been, and I loved that about her, her fire, her drive. But standing there, abandoned in the terminal, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from her. "Sorry, babe. Crazy day. Talk soon." I stared at it, the words blurring as my thumb hovered over the reply button. I didn't respond. Instead, I hailed a cab and gave the driver the address of her temporary apartment in Brooklyn. The city blurred past. Neon signs, honking horns, the pulse of a place that never sleeps. My mind churned, replaying her rushed goodbye. She hadn't even hugged me. Not a touch, not a glance that lingered. Just busy and gone. I tried to shake it off, to tell myself I was overreacting. But the cab's leather seat felt cold against my back, and my heart pounded with a suspicion I couldn't name. Her apartment was in a sleek, modern building with a doorman who eyed me like I was a delivery guy who'd taken a wrong turn. "I'm here for Sarah Thompson," I said, forcing a smile. He raised an eyebrow, checked his list, and waved me up. The elevator ride to the 12th floor felt endless, each ding of the floors like a countdown to something I wasn't sure I wanted to face. When I knocked on her door, there was no answer. I waited, my knuckles still stinging from the knock, and tried again. Nothing. I slid down to sit against the wall, my bag at my feet, and called her. Straight to voicemail. "Hey, it's me," I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. "I'm at your place." "Where are you?" Hours passed. I dozed off in the hallway, jerking awake when my phone finally rang at 11 p.m. "Mark, oh my God, I'm so sorry." Sarah's voice was breathless, rushed. "Work ran late, and my phone died. I'm on my way home now. Stay there, okay?" I mumbled something about being fine, but my stomach twisted. Her tone was off, too bright, like she was reading from script. When she arrived 20 minutes later, she looked flawless. Hair swept up, makeup fresh, a tailored coat I didn't recognize. "You didn't have to wait," she said, unlocking the door, her smile flickering like a bad light bulb. "I told you I was busy." Inside, her apartment was pristine, all sharp angles and minimalist furniture. It didn't feel like her, not the Sarah who loved messy bookshelves and colorful throw blankets. We sat on her couch, and she poured us wine, talking too fast about her project, her clients, her deadlines. I nodded, but my eyes kept drifting to the details. A man's scarf draped over a chair, a pair of boots by the door that were too big to be hers. "Whose are those?" I asked, pointing. Her face froze just for a second before she laughed. "Oh, those? My coworker, Tom. He left them here after a team meeting. We've been working late." Tom. The name hit like a pebble in a still pond, rippling through my thoughts. She'd mentioned him before, casually, a great guy who was helping her settle in. I never thought twice about it. But now, her quick explanation felt like a lie trying to cover another lie. I sipped my wine, the bitterness stinging my tongue. "Tell me about Tom," I said, keeping my voice light. Her eyes flicked to the side, and she launched into a story about his marketing genius. But her hands were restless, twisting the stem of her glass. I listened, nodding, while my heart sank deeper into that hollow ache. The next morning, I told her I was heading to a coffee shop to give her space to work. Instead, I lingered outside her building, my breath fogging in the chilly air. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to see something, anything, to quiet the storm in my head. Around noon, I saw her leave, her arm linked with a tall guy in a navy coat. They laughed, her head tilting toward him the way it used to tilt toward me. My throat closed up. I followed them, keeping my distance, my heart hammering as they slipped into a cafe. Through the window, I saw her lean across the table, her hand brushing his. It wasn't a coworker's touch. It was intimate, familiar. I didn't confront her then. I couldn't. My mind was a mess of denial and rage. But I needed proof, something undeniable. Back at her apartment, I waited until she left for another meeting and started searching. It felt wrong, invasive, but the scarf, the boots, her evasions, they were screaming at me. In her bedroom, tucked in a drawer under a pile of sweaters, I found a photo. Sarah and this guy, Tom, on a rooftop, her arms around his neck, both of them grinning. On the back, in her handwriting, T and S, July. My knees buckled. July. 2 months ago. She'd been with him while I was planning my surprise, while I was missing her voice, her laugh. When she came home, I was sitting at her kitchen table, the photo in my hand. Mark, what she started, then saw the picture. Her face crumpled, not with guilt, but with something like annoyance. You went through my stuff? She snapped. I laughed, a bitter, broken sound. You left me at the airport, Sarah. You lied about work. About him. The truth spilled out of her then, not because she wanted to confess, but because I'd caught her. She'd been seeing Tom for months. It started as just drinks, then became something more. She didn't love me anymore, she said. She hadn't for a while. The betrayal burned, but what hurt more was her coldness, like I was an inconvenience she'd finally shaken off. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just looked at her, the woman I'd loved for 6 years, and saw a stranger. You should have just told me, I said, my voice quiet. You didn't have to make me feel like nothing. I grabbed my bag and left, her silence louder than any apology. My lesson wasn't revenge. It wasn't some dramatic stunt. It was letting her go completely. I blocked her number, sold the engagement ring I'd been carrying in my pocket, and moved across the country. Months later, a mutual friend told me Tom had left her, and she was struggling. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt empty. But I learned something. Love doesn't survive lies, and trust, once broken, doesn't rebuild. I walked away to save myself, and that was the hardest, most honest lesson I could teach her, or myself.